The World Cup final is here, and the knockout stage of this tournament has been pretty crazy. There's been a lot of great games. So what I've done here is I've done the top 5 games that we've seen in the knockout stage. I was going to do group stage as well, but maybe I'm going to do that in a separate. Maybe do that in a separate video, because there's just been so many games in this World Cup. It's been the biggest tournament we've ever seen. So there's been so many games, and it's been hard to remember every possible game, because there's been some great games. So if I have missed any out, any great games that you think should be there in this top 5, let me know. And this is from a mutual perspective as well. Like, it's just what I think the best games were to watch, from the best actual games of football for the mutual to watch. Because I could have just done all top 5. Yeah, I could have just done England wins. And there is England wins in here, but I'm doing it as in like the best quality of games that we've seen, if you get where I'm coming from. So a few honourable mentions before we do get to the top 5 matches. What I've had as the top 5 matches, I think first of all, going to give a mention to 2 games that had penalty shootouts in. First of all, Paraguay knocking out Germany on penalties was a very memorable one. The game as well, Paraguay taking the lead. Then you have, of course, the Netherlands against Morocco as well, the same night. Morocco knocking them out, winning that penalty shootout as well, equalising in the last minute. That was a very memorable game. Also, I think Portugal-Croatia definitely deserves a shout, because Portugal come from behind, controversial goals chalked off for Croatia as well. Last minute equaliser in particular, which would have made it 2-2, very controversial. But that was certainly a good game as well. Brazil-Norway, very enjoyable game. Norway knocking out Brazil. Norway were definitely like the dark horse of this competition, it's fair to say. That game was a great game, very memorable one. Very, very impressive from Norway. I think that definitely deserves a mention. And the last 2 I'm going to mention before I get to the actual top 5 that I've done is the game between 2 games actually. Spain against Belgium and Norway against Ivory Coast. Both really tightly contested games. A lot of chances at both ends in both of them, and late winners in both from Norway and Spain respectively. So I think those are some of the games that we just missed out that I definitely consider putting into the top 5 for this. But getting on to the top 5 now, my 5th place is it. I did go England Norway. I think this is a great game. I thought it went the distance. I thought, very close in the first half, a lot of chances. Norway taking the lead, England striking back. Disallowed goals for both. England on the brink of half time, then Norway in the second half. Not a great second half for England, but then in the first period of extra time, of course, we get ourselves in front, then hold out. I thought that was a great game. I thought, really, really close, really tight. A lot of good moments from both teams. England just having enough to get over the line in the end. That was when Norway's run as a dark horse officially ended, but they really, really given it a good go in that game as well. Very, very close to going further. So I think that was one that I think was certainly memorable. The game I put in 4th was actually, I actually went for Brazil against Japan, which was around a 32 game early on. But I thought this was 2 big hitters going early on. I think Japan were very, very impressive in the group stage. For Brazil, at that point, the expectation was still really on them. But the game starts really well for Japan. I think, Japan were one of those teams that felt like on a different day they could have gone further. The game in the first half was all Japan, really. Sano's got his goal. Casemiro made Casemiro pay there, and then put them 1-0 up. But in the second half, Ancelotti on this occasion got it right. Of course, Brazil eventually met their match against Norway, but they really got it right in this second half. Substitutions worked, and of course Casemiro who redeemed himself, got them back into the game. And then I think Japan maybe should have been a bit braver, could have started playing a bit more like they did in the first half, sat a bit too deep, but Brazil really went for it then, really was creating a lot of chances, and it was only a matter of time. Then, of course, Martinelli off the bench gets the big winner for them. I remember that game. I think it was a really, really good game, a lot of chances in that game. Comeback from Brazil, very good from Japan in the first half, very impressive comeback from Brazil in the second half. I think that was a game I personally really enjoyed. The game I put for 3rd place is I actually went for another round of 32, which was Belgium against Senegal. Belgium, of course, come back here, and I think what really makes this memorable is the way Belgium come back into it. There's something about a game that looks finished, it looks over, looks like there's no way the team can get back into it, and then they find a way to. There's something about those type of games, but I think, Ismaila Sarr played a really, really good game, of course, for Senegal. They go 1 up in the first half, and 2 up in the second. It's all Senegal. It's looking, well, they're there basically, and within the last 5 minutes, Tielemans inspires the comeback, gets the game back for 2-2 for Belgium out of nowhere, and then they play a really good extra time and win for extra time. So I think, that had a lot of goals. They had a comeback. It had extra time. It looked dead and buried, and Belgium come back into it. I think that was a really, really exciting game. I think that has to be there in this top 5. Close for the number 1, but I think the one I did put at number 2 was England-Mexico. I think, this definitely has to be there. Not on a personal level as well, it's seeing England get through like this, but even in terms of the game itself, it was a great game. I think, it was always going to be great at a great stadium, great atmosphere, great host in Mexico. They started the game so well, Mexico, but England, particularly Bellingham, stepped up, as he did so many times this tournament, and puts England into a 2-goal lead. Mexico, though, are not done. They get one back before half-time, and then going into the second half, England go down to 10. Now it's looking like, okay, England could have a problem here. But, of course, Gordon wins us the penalty. Kane puts us 3 up, but Mexico are not finished. They get a penalty of their own, which, of course, Jimenez buries. And then from there, England would defend for our lives, but we see it out. This is a game where so much happened in that 90 minutes. It was so enjoyable. I imagine from a mutual perspective, from an England perspective, it was nervy as ever, hanging on, but we found a way through that one. That's a really, really enjoyable game, not just from an England perspective, but I imagine, what a game of football that was. But the number 1 game, the one that I did, that's close to number 1, but the one I did give the number 1 to is, I think, the game that I think was arguably the most enjoyable at the World Cup, and it was a historic kind of game as well. And it could have, the only thing that would have, if the result was slightly different, if it had gone the other way, then it would have been probably one of the most memorable game of all time. But still, for what it was incredible. This was another round of 32 game, in fact. But this was very, very memorable. This was so much more than people thought it was going to be as well. Everyone thought that Argentina would beat Cape Verde convincingly. It wasn't like that, though. Argentina, Cape Verde, 3-2 Argentina after extra time. I think this has got to be the one. For me, to be honest, I think, the way it starts, Messi putting them 1-0 up fairly early on, then it looks like, it's going to be a long day for Cape Verde. But they certainly didn't sit deep. They certainly played their football. They certainly come to have a real go. And what they did was just so impressive, because they actually took the game to them. They didn't just defend. They really had a go. They played really well, and they got the equaliser they deserved from it. And even for extra time going behind, they hit back again. And it was only an own goal where they come unstuck, and it was such an incredible goal that got them back into it through the extra time as well for the 2-2. One of the all-time great World Cup goals. So I think, the way they fought in that game, Cape Verde, I think, that's got to be one that gets into this top 5, and I would say was the one that I would have as the number 1 game from the neutral perspective. So that's what I thought. Let me know what games you thought I missed out there, and what you would have as the number 1, because I do think this is quite interesting. I thought there's a lot of great games with a lot of in this knockout stage. I think there's been some incredible games. So let me know your thoughts on this.